It's time to call the zoning commission meeting, regular meeting for Monday, February 5th, 2018, in order. We have 5 regular members, and so we will appoint Joe to sit for Jerry Post. And there are minutes of our January 8th meeting. Anybody have any corrections or changes that are needed?
Dave, I read the minutes and I didn't see any corrections needed or additions needed. I move that we adopt them as they were submitted.
Your second?
Second.
Second by Donna. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, we'll get through one thing quickly. Okay, we have a public hearing, continuation, application 1757 of Marshall Epstein.
Application 17?
Application 1756, I'm sure. Sorry, I misread it. Counselor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is T.J. Donahue for the record, and I represent Marshall Epstein and Rosedale Farm. Marshall Epstein's here with us tonight, and we'll be able to answer any questions that you have. This is a continued public hearing, and it's the underlying issue is a text amendment to clarify the definition of agricultural operations, so that we clearly specify that having a small area for cooking breads and pies is an acceptable use as an agricultural operation. We were very grateful last time that everybody on the commission knows Rosedale Farm, is very familiar with it. We had a very good discussion, and we had a lot of support for Rosedale Farms, generally and specifically. The discussion was free-ranging, but I'm not sure that anybody's opposed to the concept that the entrepreneur would be able to bake pies and bake breads on the farm in a small area as part of his operation there. When we adjourned, you sent us on to the planning commission by reference, because when you make a text amendment, it's got to be referred to the planning commission. And if the planning commission gives it the proper reference, then it comes back to you for a simple majority, vote up or down, as you wish. We're very pleased to report that we had a unanimous decision by the planning commission. The planning commission found that there was both specific reference to support farms and farming and farm sourcing, and also that everything that Rosedale Farms is doing and is consistent with the plan development. When we were with you before, I sensed that there might have been a desire to have some further narrowing of the language that you would propose. And I did circulate to your staff certain language that would be acceptable to Marshall and to Rosedale. And that was going to be to add language that said, and the scale of the baking activity is in scale and balance with the totality of the farm store operation. In other words, there'd be some proportionality to make sure that it didn't get distorted. So that's what we've done, and we'll answer any questions you have, and Marshall will answer any questions that you have.
Okay. Commission members?
I'll start. TJ, I just want to be sure I've got this clear. The document that we got today, this is the language that you're proposing. It's that revised phrasing to be added.
The green.
The green is added to the existing language. That's it. I feel that, having had an opportunity to look at the state statute, that there is broader intention in the statute. The effort that they make to define farming and agriculture. I don't have any problem with including baking pies. And as you've noted, and you looked at pure farm stores in the valley, they all seem to be doing that. I would, personally, I'm ready to support this. I really feel like, having looked at the language of the zoning regulations in some other towns, we would do well. Pardon me?
Sorry, go ahead, let him finish.
I was going to say, we would do well.
It's a matter of procedure.
I'm sorry. Commission member speaking.
We'd do well to look at this in greater, in terms of the scope of this language, as we undertake a forward review of the zoning regulations in time. We've been working at it for some years, and hopefully there'll be a time when we can broaden this, but for now, I think it's satisfactory.
Bruce, when we get to the discussion part of it, that'll be within us, but,
I hear you.
okay. Donna? Comments or questions of the
I don't have
applicant?
any questions. No.
Yeah, but I could,
Still a little specific for the site for me. I mean, we talked about,
But we can evaluate it later. I mean,
Yeah.
this is for
I don't have any
clarification
questions.
of the application.
okay.
You guys have any questions? Does the public have any, anybody in the public like to speak to this application? Staff have any comments that we should hear?
The only thing with regards to the application, you have in your previous packet, letter from the Director of Planning regarding the administrative aspect of this. You're acting in a legislative manner. It is your pure view as the commission to determine whether you feel the proposed amendment is sufficient and whether you deem it appropriate for your regulations. Staff is comfortable with the revised language. I think it brings some clarity with regards to proportionality, that in essence you need the acreage, you need a farm, you need a farming activity, you need a farm stand, and once you have those, then you can entertain a bakery on a farm with product, with the farm stand, and then it's not a standalone bakery. So I think that it attempts to bring some clarity to that. We would remind the commission, this is proposed as a permitted use as of right, but again, you have additional language that the applicant has proposed. Again, a reminder, the public hearing is an opportunity for the commission to receive comment. It's an opportunity for the commission to ask questions of the applicant. It's not an opportunity for you to formulate an opinion on whether you're for or against the application. And I would also remind you that if the hearing closes, you will continue to have access to staff, but you no longer have access to the applicant, nor is the public allowed to speak any further. So if you have any additional questions of the applicant with regards to language, I would encourage you to ask those now. If it is your intention to close the hearing with no further public comment, once the hearing's closed, you have 65 days to make a decision, and in making your decision, if you make any decision in a favorable motion, you need to set an effective date.
Thank you.
I don't see your recommended motion.
We did not draft a motion on
Okay,
this time.
that's why, okay.
Okay.
Again,
Hasn't come up yet. Are we ready to close the public hearing?
May I have one comment?
Yes, sir.
If you see fit to pass this, we'd like the earliest possible effective date to construct the facility for the season.
July's fine.
No. I mean, it would be.
of course, in front of it.
All right, then we'll close the public hearing on application 1756.
Second.
Second by Joe. Discussion on closing it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that hearing is closed. Okay, this is a new public hearing. Mr. Secretary, could you-
Application 1802. Jason Levesque, agent, Paul and Heidi McCann, owners, for a special exception pursuant to Article 7, Section C9 of the Simsbury zoning regulations for the addition of an accessory dwelling unit in the existing residence on the property located at 3 Karen Lane, Weetog, Assessors Map E19, Block 617, Lot 134, Zone R40.
Jason Levesque, agent for Paul and Heidi. Looking for a special exception for in-law suite or in-law apartment for Heidi's parents. They're here tonight. I have sent you guys plans. I have updated ones since then. Want to take a look at them? Sure.
Do you have any elevations?
Yes. Yeah. That's what we have now. When I applied for, we didn't have them. Oh, yeah, you didn't like the bathroom before?
It wasn't very handicapped.
We were, no, it wasn't. It was very preliminary, but wanted to get you guys something. There you go. Did you want one right now? Yeah. You need one for the. All right. I'll get you guys. In your packet, I believe you guys received letters from both myself and Heidi McCain regarding the circumstances for the special exception. I'll backtrack really quickly back to the plans. The plans will satisfy all the building requirements. You also received a copy of the plot plan in the packet. We also meet all the setbacks required by the town. So in the letters, we wrote about the circumstances surrounding the need for this addition. Heidi would like to provide a place close to herself for her mother, who's early onset Parkinson's. And just really wanted to have family there and be able to help during the process. If you look at the letters, it really spells out how she feels about the situation, and shows that it would be built strictly for her parents. It wouldn't be an apartment for rent or anything like that.
Commissioners have questions on? I'm not sure I understand. Is this being built over the garage?
No, so
Next to.
you see the shaded there, the darker plan right here. So existing garage
Yes.
right here, the addition right back here.
That's a ground floor.
Oh, yes, correct. Yep, yeah, all first floor. Yeah, no second floor.
And the space here is how much?
Just under 900 square feet.
And your other space is what?
That's existing.
What is that?
Oh, that is 2,600 square feet. Yeah.
And the kitchenette is a full kitchen?
A full kitchen, yeah. Yep.
Tell me about the access and use of the garage. It looks like the primary entrance to the accessory dwelling unit is through the garage. Is
Correct, that would be so they can, park in there and,
So the intention is they would park in one of the three garages?
correct, yeah. Yep.
The one that's not shown here is that.
No, it's here.
No, there's nothing there. That's the side of the property is
Oh,
off to
excuse me.
the right. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, right here, so you see. Yeah, that's the back end, yeah. Yep. Yeah, so the setback and everything's pretty close to the edge of the
I thought when I
the
looked at
building.
the plan elevation of the house, that there was a third bay.
Oh, gotcha.
It's right here.
Yeah, there is a third bay,
Right there.
sorry, at the front elevation.
So there's 1, 2.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's cut off from the main, it was an addition some years ago.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does kind of break it off a little bit, so, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So there would also be, you can see on this revised plan, another means of egress to the addition. If we look
It
up.
looks like it's up the slider.
Yeah, so there's two sliders we would put, one going to a deck, which we don't really call a means of egress, but to the left in the master bedroom. You'll see it right there, entrance to the garage, and then another entrance used for both the main house and the addition would be at the front. So you can see a shaded area, again, the darker walls, and in the existing home. We'll be placing a door in the front of the house there. Right to the, if you're looking at the floor plan, right to the left of the garage, the main garage. Yep. Oh, right here, sorry. Right there. Yep. Yeah, so the garage entrance is essentially a shared entrance, more primarily for the addition. So we're giving another door to the main house.
Oh, that wasn't there, it was just a solid wall?
No, it was just it was a window. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the slider that's going on, what must be the west end of the house,
Yep.
where there's a window now, it'll be part of the master bedroom, the bedroom and the accessory dwelling area.
Yeah.
That one is gonna have some sort of step to it.
There will be a step down, yeah, correct, yeah. We'll be putting a small patio there. And then actually a means to get to the front of the house as well.
Any other questions from the commission? Does the public have any comment on this application? Hearing none. Commission, does staff have any?
You have a report in the file prepared by Mr. Glidden regarding this application.
Could you summarize it for us, Lee?
Yeah, the design meets the dimensional requirements. It's 946 square feet. The total, the house gross floor area is 4,532. It's approximately 20% of the gross floor area of the house. Can't exceed 2/3, so it conforms. There's no concerns from a utility, either from water or sewer. Jason kind of indicated the entrance independent of the house that'll be provided. He has provided the affidavit, which you have a copy of, verifying that the home will be owner occupied, and has provided the signed affidavit for posting the public informational sign. I attached on my comments, Article 7, Section C10, the standards for granting a special exception. Those are those discretionary standards that the commission will have to review. Other than that, I have just three, should the commission find it meets those standards, there's a motion in the affirmative for discussion purposes with just three housekeeping items as conditions. One is that a zoning permit's required. Two is if there's a change in ownership, submission owner verification as noted in the regulations required. And three, that the approvals for the current setup, the accessory dwelling unit, any changes or expansions will require approval by the zoning commission.
Thank you. Any more comments on questions? Are we ready to close the hearing? Make a motion?
I move that we close the public hearing on application 1802.
Second it?
Further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's closed. I'll find my agenda. There it is. Okay. The next item of business is a discussion of application 1756, Marshall Epstein, Rosedale Farms. We had some discussion last time about the parameters of this particular item. And now there's been an addition to the to the text amendment or proposed addition to the text amendment. Anybody have any comments on those aspects? Bruce?
Just as a point of clarification, though, the previously submitted text is withdrawn, and what we're considering is what was delivered to us today, right?
Yes.
The
So it's
question-
the green writing was the change. It's the addition to the existing language.
Right.
Just-
You,
Oh, no,
what you have in totality is existing proposed language with the addition of the
Okay.
green. The green does not
Better stated.
replace, it is,
An addition.
So
in
just
essence, you have a
narrow.
paragraph. At the end of the original paragraph, he has added an and. I believe there's 20 words associated with that revision.
The previous language had sizing, like specific sizes. I remember the.
Yeah, so the 25 acres and the 400 square feet, that is still part of the proposed text amendment. That is not being proposed to be removed. Again, it was the addition of the language you have in your handout in green. Mhm.
So part of my point earlier was just that, having had a few weeks to ponder, it seems to me that we could talk about those sizes till the cows come home. I don't know that we could figure a perfect answer, and that, I guess my own inclination is not to try to wrestle that to the ground. This is a satisfactory solution for the applicant. And
What
I
is-
don't see that it can cause, in my opinion, detriment to anyone. So,
Okay. Donna?
Well, I wonder what determines the scale of the activity versus the scale of the farm? That seems rather
They're just
open-ended.
words that have no,
And again, I
quantitative
would
meaning.
rather it be more general and apply to more farms in the town. That's my comment.
I agree. Kevin?
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think we could probably handle that with our
Rewrite?
rewrite of the zoning regs. Because we covered several of these in the past where
Right.
a reg was designed for a specific piece of property, it doesn't apply to anybody else. And I think that's probably bad policy to.
Right.
to
No,
do
I,
that.
myself, I agree. Michael, comments?
I'm not entirely comfortable with the language as is. It feels like spot zoning to me. But, you know, I don't see how it also, I don't see where it's gonna harm any other farms or any other activities if it does end up passing.
Joe?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I think we have a specific item in front of us we need to deal with. I think philosophically, we can wrestle with it when we get into revisions and take care of that. So I'm comfortable moving ahead, if
Okay.
it be the will of the board.
So what I'm hearing, and I think I would agree with, is that we should approve the text amendment as it's proposed in its changed form, and that we should recognize that we're not really comfortable with the constraints, numeric constraints that are in this one, that perhaps they don't have any justification that we can fix on, but that can be left to, fixing those things can be left to a future time. If somebody else wants to apply, we certainly would encourage them to apply and perhaps make a change if that's appropriate. But for the current thing, I think we should make a motion to approve this and set a date sometime before July.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
From an administrative standpoint, today is February 5th. If you take any favorable action, that action, we have to do minutes, we have to prepare the motion, submit them to the town clerk, and then prepare a legal notice to go in the Hartford Current. That takes a few days to do it. Being really aggressive with an effective date, you could go as soon as the 12th. Staff would be more comfortable with the 19th. That allows, we'll say, potential, any issues associated with us processing the application internally as well as coordinating with the Hartford Current to get the legal notice, and any defects in that notice could be corrected. That's an effective date of 2 weeks from today.
19th would be good.
Okay, so it wasn't July you were talking about.
Better than July. Okay, yeah. Does somebody want to make a motion?
Any other, you mentioned from the legislative standpoint, is there anything else that we needed to be aware of?
No, just any favorable, from a legislative standpoint, well, from a commission standpoint, you're acting legislatively, so you have broad discretion in your decision-making capabilities. Again, it's up to you to determine as a commission whether you feel this amendment is appropriate. The only thing from the administrative side is anytime you make a text amendment or a map amendment, you need to set that effective date.
Right. Okay, we're waiting. We're
The
bated breath.
conservative date is February 19th.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the text amendment to zoning regulation. I'm trying to find the, where is it here?
17-56.
Yeah, 1756, but I was looking for the code, but I'm not seeing that.
Looking for what?
The
What
actual
it's,
code that we're changing, text
text.
amendment, to the definition of the Town of Simsbury zoning regulations regarding accessory activities in support of agricultural operations, including the baking of specialty breads and pies. With the change would be effective February 19th, 2018.
Someone want a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes 6-0. Effective February 19th. Okay, the next item is application 1801 of Richard Schoenhardt, trustee for the Simsbury Free Library, for a site plan amendment for expansion of the stair cover for the Simsbury Free Library and the property located at 749 Hop Meadow Street. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, with regards to this application, 18-01, Mr. Schoenhardt is here, okay. This did go before DRB this evening, where they made a favorable recommendation on the application as it relates to the design, with the caveat that the color of the renovation matches the main building. It's white right now, but the enclosure was recommended to color match the existing library.
okay.
I don't know if you need any further presentation, but I'll make one
Okay,
here just because the Simsbury Free Library building is in the Simsbury Center Zone, and we have need to replace a cover over the exit stair from the basement. It's old, rotted, and needs to be replaced. But as we do that, we need to, as we rebuild it, we need to comply with current code. And the current steps coming up from the basement end at a door, exiting out onto the sidewalk, and you're supposed to have 3 feet of clear space from the top of the stair to a doorway. So we need to expand this existing structure in its dimensions, 33 inches, and that's why we're here.
okay.
Pretty simple.
So you're gonna remove the entire structure?
Yes.
And replace it with a larger, as I understand.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's dimensionally, it's all the same except for this 33-inch extension to meet code. We are lifting the roof slightly because we don't have headroom clearance at the doorway, but that doesn't affect the way it looks. It'll look just like it does now, with the exception that we are eliminating some wall paneling that just rots out too quickly, not practical. and we're changing the color as recommended by the Design Review Board to match the building. It's white now, we'll make it cream to match the color of the building.
Anybody have any further questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, we did not prepare a draft motion for you this evening because we were awaiting certain site plan information to come in the past month. That was received this evening at the Design Review Board. If you were to entertain this application this evening, you would need to make a finding per Article 5J2 to modify the site plan criteria, which requires a submission of a survey, primarily an A2. We do not have that at this time. Again, the regulations allow you to waive the submission of site plan criteria if you feel you have sufficient information to make a decision in a favorable manner. But if you looked at all of the criteria contained in that section, we do not have all of that information. Again, this is an existing structure. They're expanding that structure 33 inches to the south. And from an appearance standpoint, it's replicating what's there with new materials to correct a very weathered situation.
Oh, great.
What do we think? It's okay to,
I did bring pictures of a picture of that, 2 copies of the same picture in case you need that.
So Jamie, I didn't understand, what survey was it that was
Pass
delivered
it all
to
the way down.
DRB and not to us? It's a survey.
We asked for survey
It's not an
data
A2.
when the application came in. Mr. Glidden was in contact with Mr. Schoenhart. That information was not submitted until 5:30 this evening. There was clarity associated with what existed and what was being proposed as the addition. That information was submitted tonight. But we cannot tell you today where that westerly property line is in relationship to their proposed addition. Again, it's a 33-inch addition in a southerly direction on the westerly elevation. So again, the commission has the ability within your regulations to waive certain requirements if you feel you have sufficient information to make a decision.
so this is
That answered your
moving
question,
this
Mr.
way.
Well,
This-
what I'm understanding is that we may have the material,
Yeah.
but the zoning commission doesn't have it. You have it down the hall in your office.
I have it in a design review packet. I do not have it in your zoning packet.
Okay.
But it's really a maintenance
Just getting longer.
thing where we're fixing something and it's not a,
I
I think,
understand. So the
again,
building
we,
potentially, if there's a setback to the south where the road is Library Lane,
but this,
we may be
This
compromising
is-
that setback.
No,
This
because the
is
building
within
sticks out
the-
more than it does. So
it
it's
does
just-
not affect,
No.
again, if it extended further southerly, it would potentially affect the front yard setback as it relates to the street, but it's only going south 33 inches. It will not project any further
Right, so the
beyond that
encroachment
front
isn't
elevation.
worse. If
No.
setback's not appropriate right now, it's not worse.
no, it's,
Okay.
It is really cream.
It's yellow. Thank you.
That is not our board.
Well, I just want to know how you're going to get 5-year-old faded cream to match it.
Yellow.
The sun will make it match sooner or later.
Benjamin Moore.
so what do you think? Is everybody ready to move on this?
I am.
You guys? Okay, who is the
Brave soul, Kevin.
brave soul who can put this together?
Hi, Mr. Chairman, regarding application 1801, I move that we approve this application with the understanding that we are waiving the site survey requirement under section 5J2. Do I have that quote right?
5J2,
Second.
And subject to the recommendation of DRB.
and subject to the recommendation of GRB.
Right, and subject to the color recommendation of the DRB.
Seconded by Donna?
Yes.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Passes 6-0. Okay, we are now at application 1802 of Jason Levesque. We heard the public comments tonight. Hearing has been closed. We could take action on this if we felt that it was appropriate.
I'm good.
What do you think, Donna? You're okay?
Yeah.
Bruce?
Yeah, I would offer a motion if you're ready to
Okay.
approve it.
Kevin?
Okay.
Mike? Joe?
Yeah, right.
Okay, you're on, Bruce.
Mike, did you tell me there was a,
Page 3 of my staff.
oh, okay. I need to see if I can put my hands on it real quick. I should have looked.
He's cheating.
Oh, here it is.
I don't know which ones to pick.
Oh, okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I offer a motion to approve application 1802 of Jason Levesque, agent, Paul and Heidi McCann, owners, for a special exception pursuant to Article 7, Section C9 of the Simsbury zoning regulations for the addition of for the addition of an accessory dwelling unit to the existing residence on the property located at 3 Karen Lane, Weetug. Assessors map E19, block 617, lot 134, zone R40. The special exception approval is subject to the following conditions. 1, an administrative zoning permit is required for the accessory apartment. 2, change in ownership requires submission of an owner verification as noted in zoning regulations to be submitted to the planning department. And 3, approval is only for validating current setup of existing accessory apartment. Any changes or expansions to the layout of the living unit will require review and/or approval by the zoning commission.
Thank you. You have a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, passes 6-0. Okay, we have a new application, 1803 of Patty Smith Jacobus.
Patty's not here.
Okay. A sign permit for the replacement of Simsbury free bike and Connecticut adaptive cycling sign with new signage for Iron Horse trikes and e-bikes on the property located at 836 Hopwater Street. Okay.
Kenneth Messier, I'm president of Children and Adult Mobility Project, which is a nonprofit located here in town that we run Connecticut Adaptive Cycling and Simsbury Free Bike, and we have leased that property down behind Andy's on Iron Horse Boulevard for the last 7 years. We've done a pretty good job of getting that area cleaned up in town, and we're now expanding, and what we're doing is to create a retail shop to support the nonprofit's status of the programs that we're doing. We'll be a nonprofit retail shop with the proceeds and profits going to support adaptive cycling and Simsbury Free Bike. So we've submitted a copy of the sign to you. It's basically the same, it's the exact same size sign that we have now, pretty much the same color. So that from the street level, it's very little difference. If you have any questions.
Design review passed on this?
Design review passed this afternoon, or this evening.
Mr. Chairman, the
Yes.
design review did make a favorable recommendation with no changes to the proposed application. You do have correspondence from Mike Clinton. We did draft a motion in a favorable manner with 2 items. One is that there is a requirement for a zoning permit prior to the installation of the sign, and to make it clear that it is not an internally illuminated sign. There is a reference to accessory apartments under number
Yeah, I
one.
noticed that.
You can ignore that one. That is a typographical error that Mr. Glidden is taking complete ownership of.
That's fine. I'm sorry.
I was trying to put that together.
I was
but-
really trying to find
Trying to
that.
catch-
part.
see if you're reading it.
And how does
Didn't
line
get
two
it.
read too?
All right.
We saw the movie of little tiny people, the small apartment.
I have a question that maybe is more appropriately addressed to you, Jamie. I've been queried about the sign on the liquor store, which is in the front of this building. And as a building in the center code, or center zone area, there's supposed to be a common signage plan for this building. And I'm curious, I don't see any resemblance between this sign and the one in the front. I don't know if the one in the front was approved by DRB and this commission at some point in the past, but
The new sign on this property, on the front of the building, that did not receive a zoning permit.
I never saw it before, but anyway, that sounds to me like something that the zoning enforcement officer is going to be discussing.
okay.
I guess in response to Ms. Elliott's question, there is a unique style to the sign package facing Hop Meadow. There is a differing or different view of the signage on the lower elevation facing Iron Horse, which is, again, this section of the building, if people are familiar with it, you have the old pizza, you have the new pub, and that runs parallel to Iron Horse. Then there's almost a 60-foot jog internal to the property, so that building turns, the elevation goes west, and this sign is well over 100, 150 feet from Iron Horse travel lane from there. Again, it's a match one for one. Over time, looking back at the uniqueness of this property and working with the property owner in a redevelopment standpoint, we would look back at that unified program. We did have discussions with Free Bike with regards to matching more closely what is there. This is not their original, we'll say, wish with regards to a color scheme. But again, they were honoring the fact of the color scheme that was there and trying to more closely match that versus perhaps more vibrant colors.
Like it, and bike tracks.
So again, we're trying to balance
Thank you.
the Hop Meadow address and kind of the Iron Horse address.
Okay. I don't have any further
Comments?
questions, but I do admire your intent, and I hope your success continues in that location.
Thank you.
Are we ready to vote on this?
We need to make a motion first.
Okay. You want to make a motion?
Do that?
Go right ahead.
Set yourself up here.
I make a motion to approve application 1803 of Patty Smith Jacobus, agent, Lauren Andy Andrea Jr., Andrea Family Enterprises owner, for a sign permit for the replacement of the Simsbury Free Bike and Connecticut Adaptive Cycling sign with new signage for Iron Horse trikes and e-bikes on the property located at 836 Hop Meadow Street. The site plan amendment is approved subject to the following conditions. One, an administrative zoning permit is required for the sign, and two, the sign will not be internally lit.
Here, a second.
Second.
Second by Joe. More discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Thank you. Okay, application 1804 of Jerry Toner, Director of Culture, Parks and Recs, Town of Simsbury, for a site plan amendment for construction of 2 basketball courts at the Simsbury Farms Recreation Complex at 100 Old Farms Road. Mr. Toner.
As indicated in Mike Linden's report, requesting a site plan amendment for the construction of 2 basketball courts at the Simsbury Farms Recreation Complex. I think Mike describes it pretty well. Actually, in 1999, a master plan was completed for the next 25 years of use at the complex. And actually, as of right now, the one project that has not been completed is the construction of the 2 courts. And If you're familiar with the site, where the courts are proposed, or where there were formerly 2 tennis courts that were pretty much abandoned back in the late 80s. And so it seemed a good fit that, for the basketball courts to go there. There are currently light posts there that were part of the tennis courts, and they will be abandoned. They'll be taken down, actually, and so lighting is not included as part of this project. But we've gotten approval through planning, conservation, and then this afternoon, design review. So with that, seeking your approval.
Any comments from design review?
The only thing is, I think they didn't want the courts to be red. But from their perspective, they did make a favorable recommendation with the understanding that the courts are not lit, and also there is no fencing associated with them. They understood the placement of these courts internal to the property, and that they're not visible from a public road, other than once you're internal to the site.
Right. Questions from the commission?
What color do you plan on making them?
Same thing they asked. We haven't made a final decision. My guess is we'll probably go the 4 tennis courts above are kind of a blue and green combination. So we'll probably go with some combination.
Or maybe cream. It could be cream colored, I'm not sure.
Seen from the air.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody have any other questions?
Just an observation that I was very surprised when I saw this proposal, that it didn't dawn on me there are no basketball courts at Simsbury Farms.
Right.
Been there 40 years, give or take, and no basketball courts.
Right.
But I suspect the ice hockey, the skating area might have been.
Years ago, when it was an outdoor rink, before that was reconstructed, we had courts up there. And actually, during the public hearing process of the master plan, there was quite a bit of input. People say the one thing that really should be up here are basketball courts. And that was the one, and it's funny, to this day, there's still people that were part of that say, don't forget that, that's in the plan. And so, it did get, quite a bit of attention back then, and you say it's the one project we really want to try and get done.
My only real question was, it wasn't clear to me, the drive that's depicted, the access drive up to the basketball courts. Are you talking about like 4 feet wide?
Yeah, a walkway.
asphalt,
A walkway, right.
It's not really a roadway.
No,
So,
not at all.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready to make a motion. Who would like to make a motion? Mike?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve application 1804 of Gerald G. Toner, Director of Culture, Parks and Recreation, Agent Town of Simsbury, owner for a site plan amendment for the construction of 2 basketball courts at the Simsbury Farms Recreation Complex on the property located at 100 Old Farms Road. The site plan amendment approval is subject to the following conditions. 1, an administrative zoning permit is required for the basketball court construction. 2, a pre-construction meeting is required with the zoning enforcement officer prior to the start of site work. 3, the courts are not illuminated. Lighting of these courts will require the approval of the zoning commission. And 4, zoning commission authorizes staff on behalf of them to approve minor modifications to the approved plans such as changes to grading and or landscaping. Said requests for changes are to be made in writing and approved by the planning department staff prior to implementation in the field.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Second by Kevin. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next item is application 1805 of Ronald Blumingen, P.E., for site plan amendment to the entry signage at Aspen Green located at 20 Hop Meadow Street.
Hi, I'm filling in for Ron Bowman, Lindsay Canavo. So as the application stated, we are looking for a site plan amendment for a freestanding entry sign at the owner's property. So it is here's 202, and it is going to be across from Blue Ridge. Here's the sign right here. Currently, this was under the design review board this evening. We were talking about the sign right now is currently designed at 5 feet tall with a bluestone cap. There's landscape plantings, perennial and evergreen. And we also have, the sign will be uplit at night.
Excuse me, I didn't get your name. You maybe.
Lindsay.
Lindsay?
Lindsay Canavo,
Okay. And you're from
Bustin' O'Neill,
Bustin' O'Neill? Okay.
or Aspen Green, yeah.
Okay, any questions of the commission?
So you're changing it how from what was approved?
It wasn't approved, we never actually had a sign in the site plan application in the beginning.
So,
Did
Mr.
design
Chairman-
review make any changes tonight?
Yes, they did. Just with regards to the application, this was originally part of a planned area development. As you're aware, the housing or the residential component is under construction. Units have been occupied. They own fee simple all the way to Hop Meadow Street, and that allows them under the code to have a sign at the street. Design review did make 2 recommendations, and that was to bring the center portion of the sign. You have 2 pillars flanking each side, and they were concerned about the horizontal treatment of the top of that sign. Their recommendation was to bring the sign panel down 6 inches. So you would have a pillar, that center plaque would drop, and then the pillar would be there, and that would break up the horizontal treatment of that as it stands 5 feet tall. And that would bring it into a similar consistency from a design standpoint as the ridge at Talcott Mountain. That was previously approved both by DRB and the zoning commission. They also made a recommendation to eliminate the tall fountain grasses that are flanking the 2 pillars. They're trying to reduce the vertical size of that sign. Well, with those 2 recommendations, staff is in support of this application.
Is that okay with the applicant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can drop it.
Anybody have some questions, more questions, comments? Kevin?
No kind of question.
The uplighting, there's gonna be 4 fixtures in, 2 on each side. And those are aimed so that they're not gonna be an issue for traffic for enough.
Yeah, no, they're gonna be small fixtures, and then we have our lighting rep who will put the photometrics on that.
How far back from the road is the actual
It's about,
travel portion of?
where are we here? Like, almost 30 feet, actually.
Thank you.
Okay, are we ready to take action on this? Somebody want to make a motion? There's a motion.
Mr. Chairman, you do have a draft motion.
Is it draft motion?
Oh, we do?
Again, there is a correction to a reference.
Donna's gonna do it.
I'm making a motion. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve application 1805 of Ronald Bomajan, PELEEDAP agent, SImsbury Developers LLC owner, for a site plan amendment for entry signage at Aspen Green on the property located at 20 Hot Meadow Street. The site plan amendment approval is subject to the following conditions. 1, an administrative zoning permit is required for the
For the sign.
It's not my night.
1, property line along Route 10 is to be marked in the field prior to installation of freestanding sign. 2, the zoning commission authorizes staff on behalf of them to approve minor modifications on the approved plans, such as changes to grading and/or landscaping. Said requests for changes are to be made in writing and approved by the planning department staff prior to implementation in the field. Do we want to add 3?
Yeah, 4.
4?
Well, there's 3.
There's 3, so 4.
No, 3.
Just
I
skip
took
the
out the
first one.
accessory to the apartment.
I'm up on that, aren't you?
Do we want to add
Really need to make
3,
sure.
and...
He still requires a zoning, an administrative zoning permit though, for the sign.
So that would be 3.
Okay, I already said that.
Yeah, so we're adding a fourth that incorporates DRB recommendations.
Okay. Yes, that it incorporates the DRB recommendation. That's 3.
So lower the sign by 6 inches, right?
And to eliminate the grass. What?
To eliminate the grass.
All their recommendations.
I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mike. More discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carry 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was well crafted.
Good job.
Through me with the accessory.
Putting us on our toes.
Okay, application 18-06, Landworks Highcroft Phase 2 LLC owner for site plan amendment for modifications including detached garages, relocation of grill area, conversion to a covered grilling pavilion, bicycle storage sheds, and the detailing of handicap parking in the property at 225 Powder Forest Drive.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you all? Ron Janesco, Landworks, Chris Nelson, my partner. And we are returning after about a year absence. A year ago, we came to talk to you about some modifications for Phase 2 because we were getting ready to construct. And a few things that we asked you to allow us to do were to move the dog park from this side of this roadway to this side, to remove the maintenance garage here and add it to the side of the detached garages over here, and a few other minor things. As we got into construction, because the first 2 buildings are almost 100% framed and say 50% framed, so we're moving right along. And several months ago, as we were doing the final plans, the architecturals, we came to some realizations that more garages would be good because they have become extremely popular over here, and there's a waiting list for people that would like to have a garage. So our garage count here is very light comparatively, and so we looked at some areas where we had surface parking already approved, so it's within the development envelope, and where could we convert some surface spaces because we were overparked for surface and add some garages. So on the map, and you can have this in your packets, but I did some highlighting at a really tiny scale, and I have details further in, but about midpoint in the phase, we'd add 1 5-bay garage here, which again is on top of where we had surface parking already approved. And then we would add 3 garage structures in the back here. So we will have much better parking ratio in terms of garages, but we still have plenty of surface spaces. As we were leasing this up, we realized just how popular bicycles are here in Simsbury. And we do have some Simsbury free bikes at our clubhouse. And in this first phase, there's plenty of places to park your own bicycle overnight. So in a garage, because these buildings have garages built into them. And we also have some corridors where we have some bike racks inside the building. These buildings are a different design, they don't have that luxury. So Chris and I worked on coming up with a little bike shed addition onto the detached garage structures. We worked with Jamie on a design for it, where it would integrate and look very appropriate with the garage. And I'll show you some architecture on that in a few minutes. But these little red squares represent that there would be a bike shed over here to serve A1, a shed here for A2. And then right between A3 and A4, there's a third standalone shed for bicycle storage. And that's a location where we used to have a grill patio. What we did is we didn't want to lose that amenity, we actually wanted to enhance it because our amenity package over here has been so popular, where we have the fire pit near the pool, we have the Village Green grilling area over here. So we took this small patio, relocated it over to here in the wood line, and turned it into a pavilion. The pavilion is modeled after two structures already on the property. One is the clubhouse, and this element with the roof and this little peak is right off the front entrance to the clubhouse. And then the other thing that this is modeled after is the outdoor kitchen right next to the pool, where we have grills and countertops, and it's tapered, white painted columns. We could consider cream colored if that's a preference. But no one likes to start
for Joe.
Add a little bit of, a little bit of
Simsbury
creaminess
Free
there.
Library.
Maybe half and half. But we've got the brownstone column bases with the tapered columns supporting this structure. So we've got a gas fireplace over here, which is kind of like what we did at Mill Commons, where we had an outdoor gas fireplace. But this will have a structure over it. So it's kind of a, if it's drizzling outside or it's getting a little chilly, you'd have some cover over you. And this will be monitored with video surveillance, we'll have well lit. But all these design cues are taken right off of the playlist for Hycroft. Over on this side, you'll see, again, very simple extension of what the garage already is. Brownstone skirt that goes along the front, wraps the side, turns the corner and ends. So the backs of these garages, just like they're already built in phase one, will be siding on the backside. And the backsides are all facing 150-foot heavily wooded buffer. So there's no residents that will be looking at the backside of the garage and wishing there were some stone there or something. The other things that we did here were in yellow. We revised the layouts for the parking right in front of the building to add additional handicap parking spaces. We do have 8 units per building that are on the first floor. ADA requires somewhere over 1 per to be fully ADA. We're doing 2, but we recognize that there are likely to be more people that are looking for that first floor living. So we've doubled the requirement, and we'll have proper van and handicap spaces in front of each building. So that was a minor modification, but it was worth mentioning that this is now detailed out for construction.
So you've lost some parking count?
No, actually, what we were able to do is some of these islands along the way, we have these street tree islands, and some of them were 25 feet wide, which is much more than you need. So what we were able to do is, well, we need to borrow 4 feet from this side and 3 feet from this side, and still get the same number of parking spaces in front of the building. We did take a 25-foot island and turn it into, say, a 16-foot island, but 16 is still generous for a street tree. We also added some additional street second-tier trees. So we have street trees going along the roadway, and then between the sidewalk and the building, we have trees. There were going to be 4. There are now going to be 6. We just wanted to add more layering between a resident on their, say, patio or deck, to have foundation plants, then flowering trees, sidewalk, and then shade street trees. So we've enhanced landscaping, and this is in the cover letter. But we also did some enhancements around the dog park. We have since built the other dog park down here, and we added more landscaping just to kind of dress it up a little bit, because fencing and mulch, just, it was nice to get some green in there. One of the things we discussed with staff and with the design review board was the stepping of the grades back here, where we're turning 3 areas of surface parking into garages. In that, the surface is pretty flat, a little bit of snow shelf, and then a fairly steep slope down into this swale. And by putting the garage there, we're able to actually pick up that grade change in the foundation of the garage. And that's going to expose some concrete unless we do what we proposed earlier tonight, which is we'll just carry the siding on the back side. And on the side, as we transition, we'll do a few steps so that there's not 4 or 5 feet of concrete showing. So that's something that we had done before over here where we had some grades to work with. And that was perfectly acceptable to us to do. So I think I hit the highlights. I'm here for any questions. I did bring one item, which is just for reference, so you can kind of, what do those garages look like in the first place? And these are all, again, garages that we've built on site already. They're over in phase 1. I turned them into.
We can share.
And I have.
We're good.
All
It's already there.
Could you just help me out a second? I should have
Yes.
asked you in the beginning, but
Oh,
when
that's
you
fine.
started your presentation, you were talking about the structures, the 4 right structures that are on this drawing are labeled A, 1, 2.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Does that mean all of the other buildings are under construction, or?
These are all finished.
Okay.
They're leased up.
And the far end is not?
Clubhouse is
started?
all complete,
Okay.
and people are loving it. And the experiences of the amenities here led us to adjust some of the amenities and enhance them and add the bike sheds. So it's, these 4 are in this current phase. This one is framed up. This one's half framed up, say. This is all graded and ready to go, but the weather got the best of us. Well, it didn't, and then it didn't, you know. It got cold, then it got warm. But as soon as we can, we'll be starting these 2 as well. So we're kind of working this way, and really the timing seems to be just fine, that we're getting close to being ready to work down in this area where the new structures would be. So
So the pavilion wouldn't, sorry,
The leftmost structures are not, the leftmost,
Oh.
down in there, that's not started
phase
yet?
3.
Okay, got it.
so your pavilion wouldn't be started until you actually finish building 3 and 4?
Correct. Well, it'll probably
At the same
happen all
time.
at the same time. It's kind of like when we get in here, priority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is a very quick build, where these are very intricate inside. So it's like the foundation guy can go from one step to the next. This will go in there, and actually this might be finished before the units are done, because the interior finishes take a long time.
And you call it a grill house, you have the fireplace, but is that where's the grilling?
Yeah, see, what we have found over at Highcroft is it's a very social community. Our leasing people are almost like concierge, coming up with activities and book clubs and free food Fridays, and where we bring different restaurants in and you know, have them try out the local fare, and so the social gathering spaces we've identified as being very important for our tenants. So this started as just a patio with 2 grills and 2 little tables with some chairs. And we've grown it into a larger structure, 20 by 24. There will be, the 2 grills are still here as part of the program, but when you come up the sidewalk, it will have more tables and chairs. But it's still, the idea is it's a grilling area, but then, you know, there'll be indoor-outdoor kind of furniture with a sofa, and we'll have the fireplace. Again, so you can, it's not just to go out there. Some places you see there's just this grill sticking out of the ground. It's like you don't even have a place to sit down, you grill and you gotta run back home. Here, it's more of a welcoming kind of a thing where you could take your picnic basket, grill there, eat your dinner, talk to your neighbors, that kind of thing.
What do you think, Mike? Got any comments on
all looks good to me.
Did the DRB make any suggestions on that?
Mr. Chairman, just for clarity, to answer Mr. Elliott's question, DRB, again, did have one recommendation that was touched upon this evening, and that was on the rear side of the 3 garages on the northeast side of the project, that they would step down that siding to cover the exposed concrete. That is the only recommendation from DRB this evening. And they passed that in a favorable manner, 5-0. 4-0.
Good. Donna,
Okay.
any questions? Bruce, any more questions?
I'm all set.
No set? Kevin? Mike, Joe, you
All
okay?
set.
Somebody want to make a motion? We have a draft here. Kevin?
Okay, I move to approve application 1806 of Landworks Highcroft Phase 2 LLC owner for site plan amendment for modifications including detached garages, relocation of grill area 4, conversion to a covered grilling pavilion, bicycle storage sheds, and detailing of handicap parking on the property located at 225 Powder Forest Drive, parcel 5, also known as 100 Highcroft Place, 300 Highcroft Place, 400 Highcroft Place, 500 Highcroft Place, 600 Highcroft Place, we couldn't make this easier, 700 Highcroft Place, 800 Highcroft Place, and 900 Highcroft Place West. I've missed the west of those. The site plan amendment approval is subject to the following conditions. 1, an administrative zoning permit is required for construction of garages, storage shed, and grilling pavilion. 2, a pre-construction requirement meeting is required with the zoning enforcement officer prior to start of site work. 3, the zoning commission authorizes staff on behalf of them to approve minor modifications to the approved plans, such as changes to grading and/or landscaping. Said request for changes are to be made in writing and approved by planning department staff prior to implementation in the field. And 4, to incorporate the recommendations from the design review board from their meeting of February 5th.
Here a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Mike. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No,
Think
no.
about an accessory apartment on the bike shed. It's already got a park.
Application 1807 of James Elder Agent, Robert Petroselli, Folly Farms, for a special exception pursuant to Article 10, Section H of the Town of Simsbury zoning regulations for a temporary liquor permit for a one-day event. Property located at 75 Hartford Road. Anyone here? Nope.
Mr. Chairman, as a matter of the regulations, this is a special exception, requires a public hearing. It's staff's recommendation you schedule that for March 5th at your next regularly scheduled meeting.
And this is for a Connecticut temporary license.
Correct.
We could have a motion to schedule this.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we set the public hearing for application 1807 of James Eder, agent, Robert Petroselli, Folly Farms, owner for a special exception pursuant to Article 10, Section 8 of the Town of Simsbury zoning regulations for a temporary liquor permit for a one-day event on their property located at 75 Hartford Road. Set the public hearing for March 5th, 2018.
Second?
Second by Donna. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carry 6-0. Okay, application 1808 of Casey Jones, on behalf of the Ensign Bickford Aerospace and Defense Company, agent Dino Nobel, owner, a special exception for construction of a concrete blast wall. Again, it's a schedule of public hearing. I don't see there's anyone here. Does someone want to make a motion? to schedule the
I'm
public
sure
hearing?
somebody else wants to make a motion.
Mike?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to set a public hearing for application 1808 of Casey Jones on behalf of Vincent Bickford Aerospace Defense Company, agent Dyno Noble, Inc., for a special exception pursuant to Article 7, Section M of the Simsbury zoning regulations for the construction of a concrete block blast deflector walls on the property located at 640 Hot Meadow Street. The meeting to be, or the public hearing to be held on March 5th at our regular meeting.
Second.
Second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 6-0. Okay, application 1809 of Anna's Kitchen for wine and beer license. Again, another public hearing to start May or March 5th. Can I hear a motion?
Mr.
Joe's
Chairman,
Yes, Donna.
can I make a motion, please? To set a public hearing for application 1809 of Anna's Kitchen LLC agent, GPF Drake Hill LLC owner for a special exception pursuant to Article 10, Section 8 of the Town of Simsbury zoning regulations for a beer and wine liquor license on the property located at 712 Hot Meadow Street, to be set March 5th, 2018 at a regular time.
Second.
Our zoning regulations state that the special exception should say what Connecticut liquor permit is being applied for. This is a general restaurant.
Yeah, we're in touch with him, further in touch with the state liquor control to just exactly figure out which license is appropriate. So we'll have that information for you.
Okay, that has to go in the
And,
public hearing.
Huh?
All in favor?
Aye.
Who seconded it? I'm sorry. Kevin seconded it, and everybody voted 6-0 in favor of it. Okay.
Thank you.
Application 1810 of Mark Lubetkin for a site plan amendment for service business in Simsbury Center, providing horse and carriage rides on the property located at 800 Hop Meadow Street. This is, wait a minute, is this a public hearing? Yeah.
No public.
Oh, no, site plan amendment. Okay.
I can just give you a
Okay.
brief overview of the
Staff, yeah.
application. Again, application 18-10 by Mr. Lebecken from Redstone Horse and Carriage LLC. You have a proposal for a site plan amendment on the Historical Society's property to run a carriage or horse livery service throughout the downtown. Per your Simsbury Center Code, there are requirements for public notice with regards to the signs that you see on occasion around town. Mark is completing the obligations of the 15-day period, so staff's recommendation is to table that right now. Primarily, it's for the keeping of horses at the Historical Society site during its operation, not anything outside of the operational hours. Included in the packet, Mr. Lebecken has included kind of his pro forma associated with the hours of operation. The horses, when they are not operating the livery service, will be kept off-site. DRB did make a favorable recommendation to you with one addition, that if there is any additional infrastructure that's required, whether it's a simple box or some other type of more permanent temporary structure, that it be done in a historic manner to replicate some of the architecture that exists on the site versus a pallet and 5 bales of hay and a tarp. So they're giving that discretion to staff as a recommendation to the zoning commission.
So you don't know whether the horses would just be hanging out in the yard or?
It would not be again, it is horse and carriage livery service, so the horses and carriage will be brought to the site for the hours of operation. After the end of the day or evening, they are brought off-site.
But where do they wait for their next ride?
They would be waiting there and circulating around the downtown.
Okay.
So again, in part of in part of the information he submitted as his application, he includes a proposed sign. We're working with Mr. Lebecken on the nature of that sign, so it could be considered compliant with your sign regulations for the Simsbury Center Code. Again, if it is a potential sign that just says, in essence, taxi stand, it could be considered directional in nature and not part of your sign code. But if it advertises a service, we don't, or I should say we, your regulations are very clear on the ability for someone to advertise a service off-site, and that's not allowed. So again, we're working through the logistics part of, Donna, to answer your question, is, you know, as this operates through the downtown, how do you know it exists? And that's part of the sign package.
Where are they gonna be walking?
So Mr. Lebecken is aware of those challenges.
Right, you'll be talking about the size with them too, because,
The size of the sign?
yeah, well, there's 12 by 18 and there's could be quite a few of them.
That is, again, that is
These are
something
for
we
pe-
are working with Mr. Lebecken on.
Because these are pedestrian signs, because you're not going to be, you know, it's not designed for someone driving by to see, so
Right.
12 by 18 sounds kind of big. You know, bus stop sign isn't that big.
12 by 18 inches.
Yeah, that's still pretty big for,
That
and I assume the,
Again, it's a little
bigger
bit.
than this.
And again, that's the feedback I think you would
18.
appreciate from the commission.
So this is
That's
actually, this
24.
doesn't really have, I'm not sure I get the connection with the Historical Society. What's,
Well, they have the carriages on them.
The,
running space.
he's providing the horses in the carriage, right? Or is he
Well,
using the carriage as the?
we'll equate it to a taxi service. A taxi can operate in town on public streets, but that taxi doesn't establish a home base. In order to operate this type of service, the horses need a place to occasionally rest, receive water, and perhaps food. And they are establishing that use on the Historic Society property.
Anyway, we
Thought
need
I'd
to,
see this come across the zoning board in 2018, but more power to them. It's awesome. Kids will want to ride.
we need a motion to table this application till,
So moved.
by second,
Second.
second by Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries 6-0. It's tabled until our March 5th meeting. General Commission business, there's correspondence, I believe.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one item of correspondence that came in today. It's regarding the Schoenhart versus the town of Simsbury. The stipulated agreement has been approved by the court, and that was approved today. So again, there are some conditions here. I'm working with TJ Donahue, who's representing Mr. Schoenhart on the recording of the language and the, in essence, the keeper, the gatekeeper of the language. So, as a special exception, typically a special exception would be filed on the land records. We're gonna clarify with town council of whether we should follow that there is a recording of the stipulated judgment on the land records, or whether it's just kept as a department document.
Okay,
That's all I have under new correspondence.
we have a reappointment. Can I have a motion to,
Well, why are there only 2 reappointments?
Because we have staggered
Just staggering terms?
terms.
Well, then I move to reappoint Jennifer
Renee?
Murnane and Annalise Frank.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. One other item that I wanted to bring up, I had sent some things that I believe all seen over the last few years, there are some concerns that I think we ought to address as a commission. And each of you have a copy of that. I think what I'd like to do is to set an action plan together with you guys to figure out how we address these. One suggestion is to get a subcommittee of the zoning commission to meet and take each of those items and recommend either changes or alternatives for the commission to discuss, and then bring back to us at some future meeting to decide on. And once we decide on those changes, we will have to make a text amendment changes for those items and schedule a public hearing to deal with them. That's my suggestion. Kevin?
My colleagues are willing to accept, I'd be willing to serve on that subcommittee.
Okay, I figured you would be. Mike, how about you?
I like the idea of the subcommittees. I think it would be an effective way to try and chew through some of this stuff.
Okay.
Obviously, we bring it back to the larger board for consideration.
How about one more? Donna, you or Kevin?
I can do it, that's fine,
Okay.
fine with it.
How about we make you the chair since you're the
Oh,
longest?
no, 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 no.
You're the longest serving member. When do you think we should ask for this to be completed? Maybe 1st of April?
What's it now, February? Ooh.
I think we should
That
appoint
really
Jerry
only
to
is
this.
6 weeks.
He's not even here. Sign him up.
Why don't you be the chair?
I think we should allow more than 6 weeks.
Oh, 6 weeks? Okay.
So maybe May 1st.
May 1st?
Yeah.
Okay. First meeting in May. Okay?
And it's, that subcommittee's to take up action on
To recommend.
all of these.
Yes.
And certainly anybody else.
The first one I don't think needs any action. We
Add.
just have to
Their comments.
pay attention to it. But make a recommendation or suggestions as to how we should deal with it. Maybe it's to don't touch it, but
Mhm.
these all have been brought up.
Yeah, I just think to adequately be able to do the research and to be able to talk to
Yeah.
the resources that we have available to us, we might consider, breaking these up and potentially having a couple of groups.
We could, but
Just an idea.
let's try to.
Because some of them are pretty big issues that we've been deferring for a long time.
But I think staff has some ideas about how we might handle each of them. So discussions with staff, I think, would lead to some fruitful ways to handle some of these.
Well, I relate item 2.0 on page 2 to a newspaper article of yesterday in the Current, that the
In Avon.
Planning and Zoning Commission in Avon is
Right,
working on, requested that Hiram produce recommended language to create a
to do
moratorium
this.
on their, they
Right,
didn't refer to it exactly as workforce housing zone, they referred to it as the topic of,
Affordable.
Affordable
housing.
Work housing,
Strategies
yeah.
or something, and
but
they
there's some,
basically turn it back to the staff for a set of recommendations.
but we have,
Yeah,
staff has looked at this and had some discussions, and I think
fine.
commission members could meet with staff and say, okay, what's the best ideas that you have, or here's the best 2 ideas. Let's take them back to the commission and make a recommendation and vote on it. But at least we're taking action on some of these things that have been dragging on and on and on. Okay? So we're waiting, we'll expect it back the first weekend and first meeting in May. If we don't make it, we don't make it.
We'll make it.
We'll make some. Right now, we're, you know,
All right. Good,
need
thank
it.
you.
We'll get something done.
We are so charged. We have a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Regarding the, want to say
Opposed?
something?
Actually, yeah.
Too late.
No, I can still talk. You can just get up and walk out. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Mike Payne. I'm the Board of Selectmen liaison to the zoning commission. In the event this board has something they want carried, a message they want carried up to the Board of Selectmen, have your chairman reach out to me. I'm happy to carry it forward. I typically don't carry pitchforks and sickles with me when I go to talk, so other messages are preferred. But if there's something you want carried up, please let me know. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
I have a message, at least,
Uh-oh.
I'm speaking for myself
I got
and
you,
not my
Bruce.
colleagues, but I think the strategy of the pushback on the determination relative to the, on County Road,
The solar farm?
the solar farm, is a great
Yep.
and appropriate response on
Thank you.
behalf of the residents of Simsbury.
No. It's the right thing to do.
There's no certainty how litigation turns out ever, but I think it's the right thing.
It's absolutely the right thing to do for a number of reasons.
We also need funding to finish our zoning regulations.
No, we're good right there. Again, Mike has been great to work with over the last 2 years, supporter of our department, so, yeah, enjoy working with them.
Okay, thank you,
Thanks.
guys.
Thanks for staying late for me.
Absolutely.